Hello, folks. Thank you very much for being with us today. We have with us Brandon Shealy from FDLE and Eric Ross from the Statewide Prosecutor's Office. And once again, when we do these investigations, we do them with multiple agencies because it crosses multiple jurisdictions. We appreciate our Attorney General Ashley Moody and her team, as well as FDLE. We also were joined by Hillsborough Sheriff's Office, Manatee Sheriff's Office, Pasco, Pinellas, and Collier County Sheriff's Office, and the Kissimmee Police Department. But as I begin this today, I want you to think about this for a minute. You come to this country legally. You go through the processes. After you come here, you establish a small business. You work really hard with all of your family members, and you're able to live in a nice community, a gated community. You're Asian American. Do you know, out of the 9 arrests we made in this case, 7 of our victims were Asian American. They were targeted. We are also looking at the possibility of whether or not this was a hate crime. And the people that committed this hate crime against these wonderful Americans, many of them came to this country, or their forefathers came to this country to start businesses and be successful and live the American dream, were victimized by a bunch of illegal aliens who came here as criminals to do criminal acts, and that's what we're going to talk about today. This all started for us here in the Sheriff's Office in March of 2023 with some high-end burglaries and high-end thefts. It's called the SATTAG. It's South American Theft Group. Now, it's not new to this country. In fact, we have groups from Colombia and South America working all across the United States as we speak. They're focusing on high-end houses. They're focusing on business owners, local business owners. And these 4 folks that I'm going to talk to you about for a few minutes, guess how they all got here across the southern border? They're all here illegally. Well, some of them are not here, and I'll explain that. So while you have a group of Asian Americans that came here legally, or their parents did, or running beautiful restaurants, you have this group of folks who have stolen, that we've documented, just about $1.7 million from them in cash, in jewelry, and high-end jewelry, in clothes. And think about this. What makes these folks so really, really dangerous? They are professional burglars. This is organized retail or organized criminal conduct at retail facilities such as our Asian American restaurants. What's interesting about this is they go to the restaurants and they photograph the outside of the restaurant, the inside of the restaurant. They not only photograph the restaurants, they determine who the owners are. They do their due diligence. They search the public record. They identify the owners. They set up surveillance and counter surveillance. They follow these people to their homes. Then they photograph their homes. And they look at their alarm systems. And they look at the cameras in the neighborhood. And they have Wi-Fi jammers and ways to bypass alarm systems. And then once they have their victims patterned, then they attack. They will dress in burqas. They will dress in lawn maintenance equipment. uniforms like they're there with the lawn service. They will ride scooters through the neighborhoods. They'll be wearing jogging clothes. And once they see that the path is clear, that's when they break in and steal large amounts of items. Here's what we know. This group, we've solved one burglary. Pasco solved one. Pinellas has solved one. Manatee solved one. Hillsborough solved 5. And Collier County has solved one. That's the $1.7 million in loss. But there are many other burglaries. And in addition to that, these folks came through areas like Kansas and New York, and we suspect when this video and this press conference is released, we'll have law enforcement detectives scratching their heads who are working high-end burglaries, going, my goodness, that's the exact profile of what I'm looking for as well. It's scary when you think about it. Once again, these folks come here and they have successful businesses. And it's reported to us at least one of the businesses has been totally wiped out. In fact, they're not even open any longer. And then we get to the point that I want to make. The key to solving this crime all began with a simple traffic stop by a deputy sheriff assigned to Eagle Lake in Polk County. One of our deputies stopped this car for a traffic violation. We were able to put all 4 of these people together in the same car. And we made the appropriate charges, but more importantly, that young deputy documented everyone that was in that car on that day. Our detectives, who had been working diligently to solve this because these burglars are very, very good, said, we've got our toe into the door now. So our team set up with FDLE and the Hillsborough Sheriff's Office. We followed these folks, and we followed them from their home in Orange County in 2 different vehicles. As they came through Polk County, they stopped in Plant City. Guess what they did in Plant City? They started surveilling their next victim. So we watched that, wondering if that's where the hit was going to be. Then they left there and went further into Hillsborough County, into the unincorporated area, and they stopped to change clothes, to get in their burglary clothes. And then they stopped to steal a tag and put it on the vehicle. And then they went to attack the house. Well, because of the incredible work by my detectives, the incredible work by the Hillsborough detectives, the incredible work by the FDLE agents, we were able to arrest them in that burglary. And I'm going to give you the date on that. It was actually on April the 23rd of this year. And I want you to follow that April the 23rd as I go forward. We served subsequent search warrants and we recovered very little property. Very little. We got very little evidence. They are moving their stolen goods out of the area quickly. They use different names. And their goal is they have no fear. And why do they have no fear? Because we don't have a broken immigration system in the United States of America. We have a non-existent immigration system in the United States of America. Now, if you will, go with me for a few minutes. I've got to read this because it's so complex, but I want you to get an idea. Let's start with Geraldine Galano Perez. She's 33. She has a long, violent criminal history in Colombia. She comes to the United States across the Mexican border. She's a catch and release. So she enters on July the 13th, 2021. They catch her and they give her a notice to appear. And guess what? Does she appear? No. So they catch her, they give her a notice to appear, and poof, she's gone. By the way, they'll give you a plane ticket so you can fly to wherever you want to go. And that's at the taxpayer's expense. So on 12/15/22, and then again in 23, the federal judges in New York ordered her removal. On 4/23/24, that's the date we arrested her, we put her in the Hillsborough County Jail under a $32,500 bond. She bonded. She was turned over to ICE. ICE said, now keep in mind, there's an order of deportation in place. We don't have any room for her. There's an order to move her. We don't have any room to hold her. So they release her, and she's bonded. She was supposed to have a state-ordered GPS put on her if she made bond and was released. The federal government said, we don't have any GPSs. So did they hold her and refer her back or get the state to come over and put a GPS on her? Of course not. So we scrambled around, our detectives, when we heard, hey, she's about to be released because we know she is smoke in the air, she's gone. And we get an arrest warrant for her. And we put her in the Polk County Jail. Are you ready? In the Polk County Jail, she's got a $5.6 million bond. And we know exactly where she is. Because, you see, we have a criminal justice system in Polk County. We have a system where we're not going to let these folks torment people in our community. She's got dozens and dozens of charges pending against her. And she is a very, very violent, dangerous person. Where her boyfriend is Milton Sierra. Now listen, follow me for a second. Geraldine and Milton. Doesn't that sound like Hispanic names to you? Just saying. Her boyfriend is 25, so she's a cougar. And he comes across with her, so he's a catch and release, where they give him a notice to appear. And he is remanded to have a GPS at some point in this process. And it's so confusing. Understand, I'm boiling this down. So does he show up for his notice to appear? Of course not. Does he ever get this GPS put on him? If he does, it's removed. He removes it. So once again, on 12/15/22 and then again in 23, the courts, the New York judge, federal judge, orders him deported. So he's arrested on April the 23rd by all of our team for this burglary, where his bond is $32,500. But he is turned over to ICE. They send him to the Chrome Detention Center. They're about to deport him, okay? He's on his way out. So we said, no. We tell the federal government, no, don't deport him. We got some really, really serious charges on him. Help us out. Help another law enforcement agency out. Well, they were more intent on helping the criminal out. Did you hear what I said? I want to make that perfectly clear. ICE was more intent on helping the criminal out. I mean, there's plenty of people for them to choose to deport. They can certainly, right, find somebody else to sit in that seat to deport. So we get with our friends at Kissimmee Police Department who have a stolen property charge out of a pawn shop. They file a case against him. So he goes from Chrome back to the Osceola Sheriff's Office, where he's given another bond. As soon as he makes bond, they send him back to the Chrome Detention Center again. They're now going to deport him. And we're telling them, hey, we got a major investigation underway. Just put him on hold at Chrome. No way. They deport him. He's gone. He's pending all kinds of very serious charges here, and he's gone. Well, some people would say, hey, he's out of the country. He'll be back if he's not already. Now we don't know where he is. He may be in a gated community near you, someplace in the United States, because we know his girlfriend's here and his children's here. I don't suspect he's going to stay in Columbia very long. I don't think he'll want to come back to Polk County because his girlfriend's already shown, hey, if they get a hold of you here, they will keep you locked up the best they can. But did I mention that in the middle of all this, NYPD had arrested him for 2 felonies? And one of them, he had previously cut his GPS. So NYPD has him in custody. He'd already cut a GPS. They had orders on him. Do they grab him there? NYPD is not allowed to talk to ICE. So he's released from NYPD's felonies, and they still have charges pending on him there. Well, Jason Ruiz is 42. He says, we're all friends from our border days. At least that's his statement. On 12/30/21, he comes across the border illegally through Arizona, and he's paroled because there's no space to hold him. Then he receives, or there's one issued, I don't know that he had a forwarding address. Denver ICE does a notice to appear. Someplace in the middle of all this, and we've not been able to nail it down, he's filed for asylum. So we go on, and it's now January of 2024. Kansas Highway Patrol arrests him for DUI, and he bonds. Then he comes to Polk County. We arrest him for no driver's license, and he bonds. We report all of our arrests to ICE. Do they put a hold on him? No. I imagine Kansas reported him to ICE too. Obviously, they didn't hold him because we arrested him. The 4-6 arrest for no driver's license is how we got into this thing. And then, of course, he's arrested when we catch him with our team with the burglary in progress. Now, when we arrest him in Hillsborough County, he's given a $32,500 bond. Okay? And he bonded. He posted it. ICE looks at him and goes, hey, he's here on an asylum status, and they don't hold him when he's turned over to them. So he's out again, free. So we're scrambling around, and we arrest him in Orange County, and we ask Orange County, hey, would you put a GPS on him? Orange County, Florida says, we don't have GPSs. So we have him turned over to us. We run and file some additional charges. He makes bond again with us. We report him to ICE. They won't pick him up because he's on asylum status. We put a GPS on him, which is the most we can do. 2 days later, he cuts it, and he's in the wind. He's gone. Sayonara. I don't know the Spanish version of goodbye, but anyway. Adios. So he's gone. He's in the wind. So this one is in the wind. Compliments of ICE. This one's in the wind. complements of ICE. And now we got Geller Cabezas. He's 35. He was never caught. He came across in Arizona from Mexico. He was caught in a Satka home burglary in Michigan on February of 23. He got a whole 170 days in jail for that burglary, and then he was deported to Colombia. So they gave him 170 days, we'll get him out of the country. Sounds like the system worked. He's back. How do we know he's back? Because we caught him with his buddies at the traffic stop, and he shows up April 23rd when we arrest him. He has a $32,000 bond. Now he's charged with aggravated reentry, and he's currently in the Pinellas County Jail on a federal hold. He's already pled guilty to the reentry, and he's waiting for his sentencing in September. Now, what he wants is to get deported. That's his hope. But what he didn't count on was Eric and his team, with all of the investigative resources that we provided the statewide prosecutor, of filing racketeering charges, which is a first-degree felony, subject to 30 years in prison, and conspiracy to RICO, and we've got lots of other charges on the way. But let me put this in perspective. If the fact that the southern border is not a cancer on the entire United States, the fact that the criminals are coming through the southern border with enough fentanyl that they've killed 225 or 250,000 people here, now we have these organized criminals coming through the southern border, targeting legitimate Americans, legitimate small business people, and looking for people in gated communities in nice houses with money and jewelry, and they're focusing on you next. So I want you to know, while you live behind your gated wall, in your nice house, with your security cameras, these people are coming after you too. And they're able to do that because you have a non-existent, let me say that one more time just in case you hadn't gotten it yet, a non-existent system to keep these criminals out of our country. We don't have a failed immigration program or policy. We have a non-existent program. They can't keep them out. They don't fear the criminal justice system. From the time they enter, they fail to appear. They don't intend to go by any of society's rules. And then they steal millions of dollars. And in other parts of the country, as you've heard before, they're sexually battering children. And it could all be controlled with an immigration policy that says you'll come here legally, like our victims, our Asian American victims did. You'll come here legally so we can vet you, and you're not going to come here on catch and release. And we're not going to send you to New York City, where the city there, as I understand, in the last 2 years, has spent $4.8 billion dealing with homelessness. Well, New York, get used to it. It's rule makers with that ideology that got you in that mess. It's rule makers with that ideology that got us all in this mess. We can stop this. But if we don't, you're going to continue to be victims. We're going to continue to chase these people around and do our best to keep them out of your homes and to keep them from murdering you. But quite frankly, we'd like to use these resources on our homegrown criminals. But if everybody did it the way we did it in Florida and in Polk County, their crime would be like my crime at a 50-year low. I'm going to turn this over before we ask for any questions to Brandon so that he can speak with you. Eric said he's just going to stand by and enjoy the press conference. Brandon.
Thank you, Sheriff. Good afternoon. I'm Brandon Shealy, Assistant Special Agent in charge of FDLE Tampa. This is a direct result of the strong partnerships that we have here in the Tampa Bay area and really just good police work. This is a super sophisticated group, very difficult investigation for many reasons. It spans 6 counties, dozens of victims, sophisticated measures they use to pull these off with surveillance, some countermeasures. But the good work of the law enforcement, our deputies and agents that were involved in this case, just great police work, intense surveillance, and then our analysts did a great job of linking these burglaries together across all these counties. So, as the sheriff alluded, a lot of this is due to the open southern borders. We had 2 of these suspects come across the Texas border back in 2021. We had one of them come across through Arizona in 2021. And that made it difficult, too, because they're using multiple identities, different names. So it makes it difficult to track these folks. These criminals eventually made their way to Florida and began victimizing our citizens. The sheriff said it best. We're a law and order state. Under the leadership of Governor DeSantis, Attorney General Ashley Moody, FDLE Commissioner Mark Glass, and strong sheriffs like Grady Judd, that's not something we tolerate here in Florida. We're a great place to come visit. We're a great place to come raise a family, but we're a law and order state. We're going to continue to go after criminal organizations like this. We're going to meet these challenges head on, and we're going to make sure these partnerships stay in place because that's the way we solve these crimes. I mean, 6 different counties, it's very challenging, but strong partnerships will solve this problem. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Brandon. And guess what? We're going to do our best to keep these people locked up in jail for decades. But who's going to pay for that? The local taxpayer, because the federal government won't do their job. That's the bottom line. And you know what? The federal government's going to continue what they're doing as long as the public allows it. And right now the public's allowing it. Because if the public pressure were there, they could stop this border crisis today. They don't choose to do that, and they don't care that you're a victim. Any questions?
Sure, just to go back a little bit, you mentioned that you didn't find a lot of stolen products on them. We spoke to a pawn shop owner who said that he's out like $10,000 because of this situation. So could you speak to how they went to the pawn shop?
Sure, they went to some local pawn shops, but we caught on to that pretty quickly. And they figured out that we were on their trail as well. So they have moved to different methods. And that's still under investigation, whether it's pawn shops in another state or whether they boxed it up and sent it back to relatives in Colombia. That's still to be investigated. But what we know is they were stealing great quantities, and there is not a trace of hardly any of it left here. There's some of them had a legitimate passport. So how did they get that? A legitimate under that name. They were falsifying, but you don't need a passport when you come here illegally anyway. And quite frankly, you know, I can't share my frustration enough with you and with the community that we can control and deal with this. But as a government institution, the federal government refuses to do that. They refuse to do it. And as a result, they're victimizing hardworking people, they're victimizing small business, they're victimizing people who live in gated communities. So no one is being left unattacked by these illegal immigrants that come here for no purpose other than to commit crime. And at the end of the day, I understand why you can't get excited about 4 organized burglars stealing a lot of stuff when you can't get excited about 250,000 fentanyl deaths, all caused by the same kind of people smuggling that drug through an open border. So at the end of the day, they're laughing at us. There's no accountability. There's no responsibility. They come and go, and they're praying that they can just get deported, and then they'll go back, they'll realign, change their names, get some more identification, and come back and do it again. And then the federal government will give them another free ticket to fly any place in the United States, and then put them up when they get there, all at our taxpayers' expense, billions of dollars a year. Okay?
Sheriff, quick question. Were they, to get into neighborhoods, were they pretending to be employees of Xfinity or like other companies? Was that part of the getup?
Well, as you know, it's not very difficult to get into a neighborhood. You can follow in someone else that's coded in. You can hop the gate and walk in. So there was different ways they got into the community, but then they would dress as if they were part of the maintenance crew or the lawn crews, or they were out jogging, or who's going to stop a lady in a burqa who's out walking for her afternoon walk, right? They did an exceptionally good job. These folks are very good at being organized criminals and stealing your stuff. Anything else?
Yeah, talking about these Asian American families, owners of restaurants, could it be that they target them because usually these type of families, they handle a lot of cash and probably they were bringing the cash to their houses and...
Well, first and foremost, I think they focus on these Asian Americans because they're good business people. And of course, the good business people make money. And when you make money, you buy nice cars and nice houses and nice clothes and nice jewelry. And it breaks my heart because these Asian Americans came here for the American dream, and we welcome legal immigration into this country. This is the land of opportunity. This is the greatest country in the entire world, and why we want to dumb it down to the other countries, I have no idea. But it's actively occurring when you allow these kinds of people to come here. And they targeted, when 7 of our 9 of the ones we've arrested, of the cases we've cleared by arrest, were Asian Americans, that tells you they were targeting Asian American successful businesses. And I can tell you that some of the finest sushi I've eaten in Lakeland is at one of the victims. So it breaks my heart. It doesn't have to be, and that's the frustrating thing about it. It doesn't have to be.
What do you tell those Asian American families? I mean, should they be on the lookout? Should they pay more attention to, people following them potentially?
Well, certainly that's an issue, and that's one of the reasons for the press conference today. Is everyone who owns a small business. There was a couple of small meat packing companies that were targeted. If you are a small business that deal with a lot of money, and many times your whole family works in the business. So once they pattern you and see, well, there's mom and dad and 2 teenagers, and the teens are at school, and then after school they go work in the store, and gosh, look at the parking lot at lunch and dinner. It's a vibrant store. It's making a lot of money. You take the photographs. You set up the surveillance. That's the intimidating thing about this. They followed these people back and forth and patterned them. And the federal government allowed it. The federal government allowed those burglaries to occur, allowed those people to be victimized because they won't do their job. And the immigration and ICE guy on the street is just trying to follow whatever policy comes down this month. It's not his or her fault. The worker bees are just doing what they're told. It's the bosses that are responsible. And it's very sad. Anything else? We've got one more topic here that some of you asked for. If you've unless you've lived under a rock, you know that a couple left the Hard Rock after winning, I think it was $3,000. They were followed to their house by some criminals who shot them in order to rob them. Here's the one guy, Marcus Jenkins. He's 34. We had previously arrested Marcus Jenkins, Highway 92 East at the Taco Bell. I'd done some press on it. He was unresponsive in the drive-through lane. So the people at Taco Bell said, hey, we sell tacos and we can't do it with this guy's car parked here. So our deputies, who are the very greatest, showed up and said to themselves, here is a fella passed out, couldn't wake him up, got fire there, finally got him awake. We arrested him. We arrested him for trafficking in fentanyl, marijuana, a public nuisance vehicle, resisting arrest, DUI, DWLSR, possession of identification from another. The bond was $25,000. We locked him up. He posted bond. Okay, he was arrested on July the 6th. He posted bond on July the 9th. And then he goes to Hillsborough County, follows the people from the Hard Rock, and shoots them in a robbery at their front doorstep. Well, the Lakeland Police Department worked with Hillsborough County because he lives in the city of Lakeland, and he was arrested there at his Lakeland home for the shooting in Hillsborough County. Okay, he's got 53 previous felony charges, 18 previous misdemeanor charges, for a total of 71 criminal charges. He's been to state prison 5 times. Did you hear what I said? 5 times. He's a slow learner. Now he's facing, and he needs to be sent to prison for the rest of his life. But he had a right to bond. He posted a bond. Quite frankly, if I had my way, everybody that had a criminal history such as this, that had a bond, would wear an ankle monitor. If he had an ankle monitor on, I doubt that he'd hung out at the Hard Rock and followed somebody home and shot them. But once again, there's only so many ankle monitors, and none of these were quote-unquote violent charges other than the resisting without violence. This is a bad man. He's a dangerous man. He's been to prison 5 times. Hillsborough County did an excellent job, the detectives did, at getting this guy arrested, but obviously he has no concern for life. And you look, his past history is a mixture of burglary, drugs, violent crime, and they've come up with this new term, nonviolent. I don't understand. Drugs are violent to me. I see it kill people every day. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Have a good day.